25th of February 2025, and we're having our council meeting in beautiful Capella today. So it was a joy to drive down this morning, especially seeing all the beautiful green countryside. So welcome everybody. So just recording who's present today, and those are captured. Thank you. And we have an apology this morning for Councillor Cypher. So we need to have a resolution to accept her apology. So can I have a mover, please? Councillor Cruz, seconder Councillor Burns. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. No other apologies or leaves of absence? Council meetings. Thank you very much. Moving on to number 3, which is acknowledgement of country. So I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we work and live, and recognise their continuing contribution to land, water and community. And we pay our respects to elders past and present. Item number 4 is confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting. So if I can have mover and seconder for the minutes of the previous meeting, please. Is that right? Oh, Councillor Wilkins, moved and seconded Councillor Donaldson. All in favour? Thank you very much. So any business arising out of those minutes, please? Okay, so nothing arising, so we'll move on out of the previous minutes. So we'll move on to review of our outstanding meeting actions. So if everyone's had a chance to look at those, and if there's anything else, any questions or anything else that people would like to, our councillors would like to add to that. And we get the opportunity to review every month, so thank you very much. So we're moving on to item number 7, deputations, and today there are nil deputations. Item number 8, mayoral minute, there's nil. And just moving on to conflict of interest. If anybody has any conflicts of interest, I know that we haven't received any for today. No, councillors, thank you very, very much. And again, just a reminder that as we go through the meeting, if people feel that they may have a conflict, please feel free to make sure and mention that. Moving on to item number 10 is petitions. So, Mr. CEO, have we received any petitions this month?
Yes, Madam Mayor. So we received a petition from Larissa Wallace-Watson dated the 31st of January of this year, which we received on Monday the 24th, so this week via email, regarding the current situation and management of the Emerald Aquatic Centre. In total, 29 signatures on the petition, which I'll table for council.
Thank you very much. So we accept our petitions today as tabled, and then
Need to resolve it.
okay. Mover, Councillor Burns, seconder, Councillor Newman. All in favour? Thank you very much. So just explaining that the process is that we accept the petition today, and then the petition's actioned going forward. So moving on to item or section, decision action reports, and our first report is from the Chief Financial Officer, item 11.1, which is our monthly finance report for January 2025. So handing over to our Chief Financial Officer, Arun Diaz. Thank you, Arun.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, councillors. Councillors, I will take the report as read, but I'll still touch on some salient points of the report. Operating revenue is in line with the year-to-date budget expectations, with only a minor variance. Operating expenditure, however, is under budget by 4.5 million. There have been no material variances in the interest expenditure and depreciation. The operating surplus result, therefore, has resulted favorably, mainly because of the underspends in the operating expenditure. Employee expenditure continues to remain underspent, reflecting the challenges council faces when filling long-term vacancies. Council is meeting all its financial sustainability target benchmarks, and we expect that to be the same for the end of this year as well. Council's cash balance is 106 million, where for most of the year, cash has been earning an interest rate of roughly 5%. However, with the recently announced rate cut by the Reserve Bank, there might be some changes in the cash rate going forward. Council's business activities have performed favourably to the budget, with the exception of sale yards, but we continue to monitor expenditure and make sure that any adjustments are taken through budget reviews. Council's unpaid rates and charges are sitting just under $10 million, and Council continues to pursue all avenues to recover outstanding rates. In September Council meeting, Council resolved to issue pre-sale warning letters to registered owners of 88 properties, where some or all of the rates and charges have been overdue for at least 3 years. A resolution will be sought in April for Council to resolve to issue a notice of intention to sell to those property owners who have not paid their rates, either in full or in part, or have failed to enter into a payment arrangement. Council's capital expenditure is at 39% of the budget and 66% including commitments. That concludes the presentation of the finance report. Madam Mayor, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Chief Financial Officer. Are there any questions or comments from the councillors? Councillor Wilkins.
Sorry, questions as usual. So on page 57, you've got the sundry debtors. So there are some who are over 3 months. How do you recover the debt from those debtors?
Yep. Through the Mayor, through the Chair, Councillor Wilkins, so our debtors team and our debtors officer continue their recovery of chasing debts. We especially make sure that anything past 30 or 60 days, depending on the terms, we monitor those ones very closely. I know there is a debt there sitting there for 90 plus days, which is $533,000, but we continue to pursue and make sure that those debts are recoverable.
So it's kind of a, is it the same as the rates recovery kind of process, or a bit different?
It's very similar,
Yeah.
but obviously there are different stages of rates recovery for sundry debtors as opposed to rates.
Okay. Sorry, and just for my own sort of education. So on page 58, that other chart there, the procurement activities.
Yes.
So you've got outside spend, local spend. What does excluded mean? What are you excluding?
Yes. So, councillors, the excluded amount mainly is of those purchases where council has no discretion to actually pursue any procurement locally. For example, Ergon's, Telstra's, which are largely a monopoly market. So council does not have an option to actually go out to the market to source alternate services. So we make sure that those are categorized as excluded from the overall purchasing.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I think.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkins. Councillor Whiteman.
Through the chair, the rates arrears of nearly 10 million, I believe you said. There's only 6.5 million on the rates arrears table there. The other 3.5 million.
Yes. So, Councillor Whiteman, on page 55, you've got the other $2.7 million for the water charges, water and wastewater charges.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Thank you.
Rightio. Thank
Thank-
you.
Thank you, Councillor Whiteman. Thank you. If there's no further questions or comments, we'll, and can I have a mover, please? I'm not sure whose hand went up faster there, but Councillor Donaldson, and seconder, Councillor Hindmarsh. All in favour? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Good. And moving on now to item 12.2, communities. So, oh, sorry, what did I say? 12, I'm jumping, sorry. 11.2, communities. So the item number is 11.2.1. So Central Highlands Arts and Cultural Advisory Committee, new member nominations. So handing over to General Manager Communities, Adrian Burns.
Thank you, Mayor, and through the Chair. With me today, as you will all recall, I have Vashti Bardsley, the Arts and Cultural Officer for the galleries, who oversees all our galleries within the region. The Central Highlands Art and Cultural Advisory Committee, known as CHRC, is a council committee established to support council service delivery in the area of the arts. CHRC operates under terms of reference endorsed by council, and as required by those terms of reference, the committee contains 2 councillors, 1 council officer, and up to 12 community members. We currently have vacancies on that committee, and we received a request, an expression of interest from a community member to be on that committee. This report references that request and seeks endorsement of that community member to be appointed. Last time we spoke about this, councillors asked for a little bit of info on the applicant. So this time we've included just a little quick synopsis. Abrahama Thako was reviewed as the nominated candidate. Abrahama has a deep passion for the arts and is a secondary art and music teacher at Emerald Christian College, where he combines art with the love of the STEM, science, technology, focus subjects. Abrahama is a well-rounded individual, and we believe he will be a great addition to the committee. There will still be vacancies on this committee after a successful appointment, if Abrahama is successful, and we will continue to run expressions of interest periodically to ensure that we can continue to complete that committee. I have Vashti here for questions in case you ask me anything difficult, because she knows all the answers. And other than that, I will take the report as read, if that is acceptable.
Thank you very
Happy
much.
to take questions.
Thank you very much, General Manager. Welcome, Ashley. Any questions? Good, Councillor Hindmarsh.
Thank you. Through the chair, I have read through the report, and I agree that I believe this nominee will be of great advantage and bring a lot of knowledge that could be very helpful to the CHRC. And could I please ask, just generally, how many vacancies do we have on the committee after this one, if provided this one is filled?
Oh, through the chair. We actually will have 8 if Abhirama is endorsed. We recently had one of our community members resign from the CHRC, so yes, we do have vacancies.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hindmarsh. Councillor Cruz.
Through the chair, so have we consistently had a number of vacancies for a longer period of time?
I believe that to be the case. Yeah.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we've had approximately 8 for at least the last 12 months, give or take. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Cruz. Councillor Wilkins.
Yeah, I'd just like to confirm, certainly since I've been in CHRC, we've only had like 3 or 4 community members who are very proactive and, certainly, great to have on the team. Certainly, Mr. Thacker sounds like he's, I love the idea of mixing art and music into science and technology and stuff. So I think he's going to make a valuable contribution to CHRC.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkins. Thank you, Councillor Whiteman.
Through the chair, how are these positions advertised? Or is this something that people are invited to?
We do a range of advertising, so it's through the council newsletter at various times as well as social media. So then obviously the information's available on the website for anyone who wishes to apply and express interest.
Generally, people who are already active in that space would be the people that, yeah. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. So, Councillor Wilkins.
Yeah, and just to add to that, so the positions are just open all the time. It's not like, there are rounds of applications and stuff like that. So whenever anyone wants to apply, they can apply, as far as I'm aware.
Madam Mayor, if I may, it would be great if councillors could share this with the networks and push anyone they know who may be suitable. That's always
Absolutely.
well received.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much. Sure, we can all do that. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll put the recommendation is that Central Highlands Regional Council endorses Abarama Thacker as the member of the Central Highlands Arts and Cultural Advisory Committee. Can I have a mover? Councillor Wilkins, seconder. Councillor Newman, all in favour? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you, councillors. If I may, before we just move off this item, officers would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the recently resigned community member Melissa Chick.
Yes.
Melissa has been a dedicated member since 2019 and has offered invaluable contributions to the committee, and we would just like to recognise and thank Melissa for her contribution during that time.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. Melissa is a very proactive member of our community. So, yep, thank you very much, Melissa. Thank you. Oh, Councillor Newman.
I'd just like to reiterate that thanks to Melissa because I worked with Melissa for a time and she was an amazing contributor to that committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 11.2.2, which is the DA 050 2024 material change of use, non-resident worker accommodation, Rosewood Street, Blackwater. So handing over now to General Manager Communities, Adrian Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. Obviously, we have discussed elements of this particular accommodation at council before. We were recently here with a fee reduction in charges last month, and at that time we talked about this report would be coming to council for discussion later. That time is now. Essentially, we will take the report as read, but I do also have Kirsten Byrne with me to answer any salient questions that may be relevant and just cover any points that we feel are appropriate to just touch on before we move into those questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adrian, and through you, Madam Mayor. So the application that's before you is for an existing non-resident worker accommodation in Blackwater, which was originally approved by the Minister of Economic Development Queensland in October 2015 for 684 rooms, and then a second approval by the MEDQ in November 2016 for an additional 104 rooms, totaling 788. So as Adrian mentioned, this report was presented back in 22 January for a fee reduction based on the level of assessment that was actually required in terms of cost recovery for the application fee. We didn't contemplate the assessment during that, as it was just solely focused on the fee reduction. So this application has been assessed and is recommended for approval subject to conditions. Whilst I'll take the report as read, I wouldn't mind summarising just a few key points, just to make sure councillors are aware of the key points of the application. So with the two applications that were approved by the MEDQ, there was an imposition of a sunset clause on each of these approvals, one for 11 years and one for 9 years, respectively, from the date of approval. So essentially, sunset clauses put an expiration date on a development approval whereas normally the development approval sits against the land in perpetuity and just remains in effect. Council does not typically utilise sunset clauses on development approvals as a standard practice. It's not known why EDQ imposed those sunset clauses on the two development applications at the time. So the most recent, in terms of other approvals that council has issued for workers' accommodations, there was a change application issued in March 2024 for a different workers' accommodation in Blackwater, which didn't contemplate a sunset clause there. So again, it's just not standard practice from a council perspective. So the land on which the development was approved is designated by the Blackwater Development Scheme as being appropriate within the growth area on the eastern side of town for this type of use. The application before us today is seeking to consolidate the two approvals and remove those sunset clauses. So normally under the Planning Act, which we're probably more attuned with, the application would be considered a change other application. But because the change proposed was considered substantially different under the Economic Development Act, it needed a brand new application to be lodged. So that's why it's a brand new application instead of a change. So a public notification did occur, and there were 4 submissions objecting to the proposal, with concerns around what it meant being the consolidation of the 2 existing approvals, concern regarding cars and traffic. A comment was made about vacant houses, and we need to focus on improving infrastructure to create a more balanced and sustainable town. So all of those items were considered as part of the assessment for this process. There is a component of the development approval subject to conditions, which includes an infrastructure charges notice levying an amount applicable to council of $3.1 million, which includes the offset of charges previously contemplated by the developer when the original approvals were done through the Economic Development Act and the Minister of Economic Development Queensland. So council has sought legal advice on the levying of infrastructure charges for the balance owing to council for the demand on network. So it's quite a long report. Appreciate you would have had some time to digest it. The conditions package is included in there, which includes the consolidation of those conditions, but happy to take any questions.
Good. Thank you very much. Councillor Wilkins.
Sorry, I should say this all the time, through the chair. So just with that infrastructure charges, because it's, I can't find it at the moment, but it's a $7 million initially, and then it was offset by having those free rooms, is that, oh, not free rooms, those rooms, 39 rooms available to local communities.
Yeah.
Oh, is that correct?
Yep, so I'll just clarify that. So with the infrastructure charges that were levied as part of the original 2 development approvals issued by the MEDQ, they levied infrastructure charges which were offset by the provision of trunk infrastructure, which the applicant did at the time. There was also the component of the affordable accommodation rooms, which were a condition of approval, where they had to provide 39 rooms in total over the 2 rooms for a period of 5 years as affordable accommodation. So the developer at the time contributed to the provision by constructing trunk infrastructure in terms of the new road and sewer infrastructure at the time. And there was also, the provision of those affordable rooms for the period of 5 years from the date of commencement.
So so essentially what you've got here is the original sort of application, is that correct?
It's a consolidation of the 2 original applications, and there were subsequent change applications which were highlighted in the report on page 88. It talks about just minor changes that were done to the original approval for the 684 rooms, which was decided on October 2015, and the second one was decided on the 25th of August. So they were just changes relating to landscaping conditions and nothing major.
Okay, so then the $7 million or $3 million infrastructure charges, that's not relevant now, is that correct? Or is that?
No, so what is relevant now is when assessing an application, we have to levy infrastructure charges in accordance with the charges resolution. That amount is based on the per suite, which is the number of suites or number of rooms associated with that. That total figure that is payable at the time of the finalisation of this, if resolved to be approved, acknowledges the offset which was already provided to the developer of that $3,040,000, including a credit. So that's the remaining balance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, thank you. So just a couple other concerns that I have. So essentially the conditions, I guess initially were to carry out development generally in accordance with approved plans, drawings and documents, and maintain the approved development, including landscaping, parking, driveways and other external spaces. So when I look at the plans of, what is it, 2014, there's a ton of trees and landscaping. There's even photos of the types of landscaping that's going to be occurring there. And yet in the most recent aerial photo, there seems to be, well, nothing. And you know, if you're, and I can see, I guess, I can't remember where, I don't know when this picture was taken, on page 128, but that looks like that was before any development of housing around it, because the current photo seems to have housing around it.
So that's our current aerial mapping, which is obviously quite outdated.
That one there, yeah. So, so that was what it's supposed to be, and there is nothing. There's like there's roughly well over 100 trees or shrubs and things here, and in the current aerial photo, that one there on page 90, there's like 7. To me, and then you got all the housing that's I guess the residential housing encroaching on there. To me, it's like they're not keeping to their part of the bargain of landscaping it to kind of have barriers, visual green barriers and things like that. So, I get a little bit upset about the lack of landscaping, especially when it was promised like 9 years ago, and now it's it hasn't. Nothing's been done like that to even contribute on some level to the community, on some, at least a visually acceptable look to the community.
Appreciate that comment and concern, and it is a valid one. So if you turn to page 84 of the report, condition 30 references landscape work. So whilst compliance probably hasn't been undertaken to date on the undertaking of those landscaping works, you'll see that the condition of approval does have a timing clause in there within 6 months of this development approval taking place.
Okay.
So submitting to the principal engineer detailed landscaping plans, and also the landscape plans that you're referencing, that beautiful one with the colours and all of the trees, that is forming part of the approved plan of development documentation if the application is approved subject to conditions today. So there would be a compliance undertaking required to make sure that those conditions are complied with.
So that wasn't in the original.
It was in the original.
So essentially they haven't been compliant at all as far as landscaping and stuff then?
A compliance check wasn't undertaken, no.
Okay.
So there are gaps in terms of the landscaping that was approved and what's on site there now.
Yeah.
There is some landscaping, but it's probably not completely in accordance with that approved plan that was.
Yeah, I mean, like mowing lawns, I don't think is necessarily landscaping, or maintaining landscaping. I just feel, every time I go to a CRG meeting, there is, such emotion. It's such an emotional topic about having these camps there in the first place, let alone they're just not doing the very basic thing to make at least it pleasing to look at, let alone, and they're, I don't know, I just feel that they're not trying to be a part of the community. They're just like, they go there, do their job. And I'm not complaining about the workers, obviously, but it's like that's their contribution to the community. Go there, stay there, and then go. And also, as far as Bill Gannon's report, he talks about, the average spend per worker is $500 a week, which equates to about $1 million just for that camp a week going into the community. I would think with that amount of money going to the community, I struggle to see. I wonder why it doesn't look prosperous, because where is that money being spent if not in the community? Is it just fuel? Is it because it certainly wouldn't be spent necessarily a lot on food, because they get food provided and stuff like that. So I guess my issue is, for them to be asking things of us, they need to be complying and promoting the community and being a part of the community a bit more than what and what the constituents of Blackwater tell me they are.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkins. Councillor Whiteman.
Thank you. Through the chair, you said that there were roads that were built that were formed part of their original agreement. So the agreements were in 2014 and 16, was it?
Sorry, I've just turned the page. Sorry.
Yeah.
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 And then subsequent changes after that to
Yep.
review a few things. Yeah. 2014 was the original for the 684 rooms.
Yes.
2016 for the additional 104 rooms.
When were the roads built?
I'd have to take that question on notice. I'm not entirely sure what year the road was constructed, but
that
it was New
road-
Road C.
Was that road that goes from the Capricorn Highway directly north?
So that was part of the Warrata camp, which is just next door.
Okay, that's a
So Warrata
different.
Road
Yep.
is the one that goes up from the highway. So Warrata Road is the camp. Sorry, that's got an existing approval that had the change that came through council last year.
No, that's all right. The 39 rooms that were to be made available for 5 years.
Yeah.
Was there any compliance on whether they were made available?
So council did undertake compliance on the affordable housing provision, and there were reports which Quantac had to supply on a regular basis. Unfortunately, just due to the nature of a camp and trying to provide affordable housing, the condition that was imposed by EDQ at the time was basically to provide affordable accommodation for residents in Blackwater who were finding it difficult to find accommodation, but the take-up was pretty minimal. Just in terms of people, like it couldn't be a single mother and children or a single father and children living in a camp room. So it was really just single person's accommodation. So the number was low, but it was a condition which was complied with over the 5 years for each of those two approvals.
I guess I have some serious questions that are possibly best answered outside of this forum. I'd like to take this back to a workshop just to ask those questions in private. There's things that I'd love to know about this application that possibly aren't proper to talk about here. We'd be here all day.
Through you, Madam Mayor, so you do have the option of resolving to go into closed session if you so choose so, and provided you go into closed session, then you can ask those questions in closed session.
Oh,
correct.
Right. We don't have the option to push this back to a March meeting?
I'll leave it to the staff. There's some timing issues, my understanding.
Yeah, so there is, sorry, thank you, Aaron. There is a decision that is required in March for this application. The due date for that decision is before the next council meeting date. So there are opportunities where we could seek an extension of the applicant to extend that decision-making period. However, we are on a time sensitivity given the sunset clauses are enacted this year in August and November. So that's why the meetings, report, has been brought to you in the February meeting so that we didn't have to cause any undue delays to the applicant depending on the decision that was made in the council chambers today. So we can discuss it today if you wish, if there's questions, as Aaron mentioned in closed session.
Can you explain that timing issue? Was that our fault, or was that because of when they submitted the development application?
No, so just in terms of statutory timeframes for the decision-making period, it just happens that council only meets for general council once a month, and the decision due date based on the cascade of application is lodged, information request period, public notification period. It means that the due date for the decision for the application is after the next council meeting, which is in March. So we don't like to hold up. Oh, sorry, it's before the next council meeting. Thank you, Councillor Wilkins.
Right, because we have tried to talk about this in workshops, but the workshops that we've had about this were specifically related to the resolution from last month
previous.
that and we kept getting directed away from the body of this work because the workshops that we were doing were about the reduction of fees at the time. I would love to have the opportunity to go into this a lot more deeply.
So through you, Madam Mayor, if the consensus of the other members is you want to go back to some type of workshop and discuss this further, I guess another option we have is we could have a special meeting to consider this particular application at a future date. So if that's the case, what I'd need is a procedural motion to lay the report on the table, which will give us the ability to move on through the agenda, revisit this in workshop, and then call a special meeting of council to consider this matter. Madam Mayor.
Yeah. I'll
Thank,
there's the-
thank you, Councillor Whiteman. Councillor Burns.
I'd just like to suggest maybe a quick closed session just to find out exactly what the discussion is. We might not need a full workshop. It might be just a couple of quick questions that he wants to ask in private, just in case they do cause trouble. So.
Okay. Just need a mover and seconder to go into closed session. Mover, Councillor Whiteman, seconder, Councillor Burns. Thank you. We'll move into closed session. Good. Thank you very much, and welcome back after closed session. So, Councillor Whiteman.
Through the discussion in closed session, I would like to move that we lay this on the table for further information.
Thank you very much. Can I have a mover? Council. Oh, moved it. We don't need a seconder. Oh, yeah. So, those in favour? Motion carried. Thank you. So, moving on to item 13.3 in commercial and corporate services. So, item 13.3.1, endorsement of procurement policy, and handing over now to General Manager, Commercial and Corporate Services, Carolyn Knutson. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through the Chair, good morning, councillors. Section 198 of the Local Government Regulation prescribes that the local government must prepare and adopt a procurement policy. I will now hand over to the Manager of Governance, Millicent Bradley Woods, to take council through the report.
Thank you, General Manager Knudsen, and through the Chair. A review of the procurement policy has been undertaken in accordance with the Policy Register and Review Schedule. The procurement policy has been rationalised to include only the proposed principles consistent with the sound contracting principles and the requirements under Section 198 of the Local Government Regulation. With content of a procedural nature previously included in the procurement policy now included within the supporting procurement procedure. The procurement procedure contains expanded detail in relation to the operationalisation of the procurement policy and will be approved subject to endorsement of the procurement policy under the policy governance framework by the CEO. The revised procurement policy provides that Council undertakes all procurement pursuant to the default contracting principles set out under Chapter 6, Parts 3, 4 and 5 and Sections 224 to 238 of the regulation, must comply with the local government principles set out under Section 4, Subsection 2 of the Local Government Act, and must comply with the sound contracting principles under Section 104, Subsection 3 of the Local Government Act. In addition, the procurement policy expands on how the sound contracting principles are to be applied in the Central Highlands context and further identifies Council's commitment to local content and purchasing at a high level, and at a high level how that commitment to local content will be applied. So in closing, it is the Office's recommendation that Council, pursuant to Section 198, Subsection 1 of the Local Government Regulation, adopts the procurement policy as presented in clean copy and repeals the existing procurement policy and local preference policy, recognising that the requirements for local content are now captured within the procurement policy.
Thank you very much. Councillor Whiteman.
I do apologise.
Sorry. Oh, good. So over to councillors for any questions or comments. Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you. Through the Chair. So with the scope, does that include CHDC stuff as well?
Through the Chair, no, the scope doesn't include CHDC. CHD is a controlled entity and operates under its own procurement requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hindmarsh.
Through the Chair, could I, the policy being condensed, just from my own understanding, to now find that I'm assuming it's in what would be the procedures, in the old policy there was a lot of detail as to 3 quotes and all of that sort of stuff. So now that's been shifted into the procedure.
Through the Chair, that's correct, Councillor Hindmarsh. The requirements at each of the thresholds, the procurement thresholds, have been put into the procedure. They are of a procedural nature in terms of the number of quotes and that level of detail that needs to be provided for, I guess, within our policy documents. It is worthwhile noting, though, that the requirements in relation to seeking quotes and issuing tenders are consistent with the requirements under the local government regulation for medium and large size contractual arrangements. So for medium sized contractual arrangements under the local government regulation, there's a requirement to seek at least 3 quotes unless an exception applies, and then above 200,000 for there to be a tender process that's entered into. And then unless an exception under the local government regulation applies. So there are a lot of confines in terms of local government regulation that officers need to work within, and the procurement policy is certainly consistent with those, but includes some additional requirements to ensure open and effective competition, applying the principles under the procurement policy.
If there's no further questions or comments. Sorry, Councillor Burns, sorry.
Thanks for this policy, and thank you for including the working documents. Much easier to read. We do get excited about reading policies, but we can get overexcited, I think, at times. Yeah, this is much more concise and better laid out, so thank you.
I think if it's all right if I make the comment, I think in our previous discussions, I noted that our social and community objectives were removed from the new policy, and I think the only reference to social was under environmental protection. But anyway, would like to say that there's a lot of work being done, and it's very good that council have been putting a larger focus on procurement and the guidelines that sit underneath that. Councillor Newman.
I'd also like to congratulate you on condensing this policy and making it more user-friendly. Also, the local supplier clarity around using MARA in the case of the Virginia region where necessary. I think that's a sensible approach, so just to get that clarity around that aspect.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. Any further questions or comments? So put the recommendation that Central Highlands Regional Council, 1, pursuant to section 1981 of the Local Government Act Regulation 2012 Queensland, adopts a procurement policy as presented in clean copy, and 2, repeals the existing procurement policy and the local preference policy, recognising that the requirements of the local content are now captured within the procurement policy. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Burns, seconder. Councillor Newman, and all in favour? Motion carried. Thank you very much. So moving on to item 13.3.2, which is the 2024-25 operational plan quarter 2 performance report, and handing over to our Chief Executive Officer, Aaron Johansson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'm pleased to be able to present the operational performance update as of the 31st of December, which marks obviously half the calendar year. I think, from what I've observed, we are going quite well in delivering the objectives the council has set us for this financial year. So I will take the report as read. I'll hand over to each of the general managers individually to just give a brief update of each of the areas, and I might start with you, CFO, if that's okay, please.
Thank you, Aaron. Through the chair, councillors, the Office of the CFO project is on page 218 of the report, which is the rating strategy. The rating strategy continues to progress as expected, and we are on track to deliver the project and tie all of the findings and recommendations into the 25-26 budget. In closing, I just wanted to thank councillors for the strategic direction which has been provided in the input of the rating strategy as well, and And there will be a final workshop as well in closing out any of the outstanding actions, councillors. Thank you. I will now hand over to the GM of Communities, Adrian Burns. Thank you.
Thank you, Iran. Through the Mayor, our operational plan results are progressing as the CEO said quite well. We feel that we've been really successful so far with the website introduction. That's going okay. There were a couple of little glitches, but we're working through them. That's always the case with any website. In terms of local disaster management plan review, that's progressed really well and is endorsed by the full board of the local disaster management group, and we're working through the subplans, which have also been endorsed. The Innovate Reconciliation Action Plan has been endorsed by Reconciliation Australia, but will be coming back to Council for a workshop in the very near future. But that is significantly complete in terms of the ops plan. There have been a couple, and it is fair to say, a couple of little delays in the flood mitigation space due to some staff vacancies and evacuation planning. And the company that was running our customer satisfaction survey ceased to exist and transferred ownership to a new company who we are currently working with to revitalise that project that is slightly delayed. But other than that, it's all on track, and even the customer satisfaction survey is now on track. Unless there's any questions, I will pass to General Manager Kerry Knudsen.
Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager Burns. I'd like to highlight the completed strategic review of Council's organisation risk register, detailed on page 219 of the agenda. This project was to improve the way in which we identify, assess, evaluate, prepare and respond to our corporate risk. The governance section facilitated 18 risk workshops, 12 risk review sessions, 2 focus sessions, 1 councillor workshop, and followed by the endorsement of the Reset Risk Register by Council's Audit and Risk Committee. The organisational risk register identifies 388 operational risks and 278 risk action plans developed for medium, high and extreme risks. I would like to congratulate the governance section for a massive body of work, and they had great support from within the organisation. So congratulations, Manager of Governance. I'd like to hand over now to the General Manager of Infrastructure, Jason Houlihan.
Thank
you, Carrie. Good morning, councillors, and through the chair. Quarter 2 saw the ongoing progress of some significant projects in the Infrastructure and Utility Department. Our Safety First project entered its next stage of consultation, commencing with work groups across council. The feedback we received from this consultation will assist council to ensure that our safety management system continues to be easily accessible and embedded as part of our safety culture. In the fleet space, the availability of light vehicles saw us change over 46 vehicles across the region, with 41 retired assets being sold through public auction and for a return of approximately $470,000 to council. In quarter 2, we were also successful in obtaining $5.9 million in funding through the Water Infrastructure for Sustainable and Efficient Regions, or WISER, for projects in Blackwater, Rolleston and Capella over the next 3 years. I'll hand back to our CEO to close out the report.
Thank you, General Manager. So great overview from all of you. I'll open the floor to any questions that councillors may have of myself or the GMs.
Councillor Wilkins.
Sorry, not really questions. I'm looking at a couple of typos and things like that. Do you want me to talk about them afterwards, or do you want them now? Or
through the chair, we can certainly take those after the session, and we can make sure that they're addressed in the version that's uploaded to the website. We apologise for our inadvertence there.
No worries.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkins, was there anything further?
Sorry.
No, you're right. Anybody have any other questions or comments? I'm happy to make a couple of comments, if that's all right. Just a big, huge congratulations. Thank you very much. The operational plan quarterly reports are our scorecard, if you like, report to the community on what council have been doing. So it's very important that we have these reports, and I just want to say thank you very much for putting the reports in a manner that people can read. So I appreciate getting to the points around in the front of the report with the strategic improvement initiative. So thank you very much. That sort of highlights some of the key initiatives that we're working on at that strategic level. And I would just like to commend obviously all the officers and everybody when you start to read from page 233 right through to page 247. There is an enormous amount of work that our council are doing. There's lots of, thank you for highlighting all of the, also the hero stats, the project updates and the good news stories. And I hope that we continue to get those out now to the community while they're all here in one document. There is the opportunity to get those out there in smaller bite-sized chunks, if you like, to enable community to also be proud of what we're doing for them as well. So a huge congratulations and thank you very much. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Well, mover, Councillor Hindmarsh. Councillor Newman, thank you very much. I put the recommendation, if I read this around the wrong way, but anyway, the recommendation is, now that we've got a mover and second, the recommendation is that Central Highlands Regional Council receives the Central Highlands Regional Council Operational Plan 2024-25 Quarter 2 Performance Report. All in favour? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all your hard work, Manager. Right, moving on to item 11.6. We've got, some nil reports for other departments, sorry. And moving on to item 11.6.1. The Central Highlands Development Corporation Service Level Agreement Update, Quarter 2. Welcome, Mr. Peter Dowling, Chief Executive Officer, Central Highlands Development Corporation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Moriarty, and thank you, Council and officers. Pleased to be here again to report on Quarter 2 for Central Highlands Development Corporation. So what you will have noticed in the attachments is that there's a slight change or a definite change in our format for the CEO report. That is deliberate. We had a strategy session with our board and team a few weeks ago and defined a better way of reporting, so I hope that meets the need for you. You may recall previous reports would be in that length of about 17 pages and very operational, which met its need at the time. But in review, this refreshed approach is trying to get the more strategic and deliverables up front and centre. So hopefully that format works for you as councillors and officers going forward. With regards to the presentation, we do always put the corporate strategy there just as a reminder of those 7 key pillars that we work towards. And in our strategy session recently, those were re-endorsed by our board and our team as pillars of work that we will continue to focus on, which is pleasing to see. The first area we look at is projects, and really pleasing to see that workforce development and accommodation strategy area. We did a very important initiative for our region in terms of the talent attraction campaign. So that imagery there on that slide is around the campaign, the Smart Move, and we had an 8-week campaign, media campaign, but the actual assets that were put to work through the campaign are there and available on our website for all to use. So I was on LinkedIn the other day. I saw council was doing some great advertising for some jobs. I just went into the comments section, added the page where all of our assets are to that, so that any prospective employee that's interested in a council job can also see some of the types of roles in regions and why people are here and get that added benefit. So we hope that council, other government agencies, business and industry can use it at their disposal with their own campaigns. So it's not about replacing, it's about enhancing. So the detail in the CEO report does sort of identify at a very high level 3.74 million impressions through that 8-week campaign period, and of those 425,374 video impressions and over 40,000 clicks. Very interesting technical language, but when you break it down, our primary objective was to position the region for job opportunities and lifestyle, and a campaign of this note hadn't been done for region at a Central Highlands Development Corporation level before. So pleased with that first step, but the assets are there now and we need to utilise them to the best advantage of the region. Within that, sorry, Councillor?
Can we ask?
Oh, sorry, Councillor Wilkins. Sorry.
So just with your, I mean, that's a very impressive number of impressions and clicks and things like that. So, but how many, were there any people coming into jobs as a result of that? Or do you have stats on that?
We don't have stats on that, Councillor. When we first went into this process, the challenge is that you have to get those stats from the employers. So all of our employers would have to give us those stats, and with the focus group that we were working with at the time, it was very clear and evident that that wouldn't be the case. So we have to work with the metrics available, which is more around the awareness raising of that. We do have a jobs hub, and that's where a lot of the jobs, that's where we link them through to job opportunities. But that doesn't mean that other organisations aren't using their own platforms to seek opportunities for employment as well.
Oh, you know, I'm just working on the ads specifically rather than what other people are doing. So just like to know, you know, if even if council had a couple of jobs filled as a result of this ad. You have no idea?
No, not at this point in time. We would have to canvass all employees in the region to determine over that period of time whether they actually had a take-up. That's a massive task. The other side to that is to understand that from the research that we're undertaking with Neon Logic, that was the group we used, that it's about a 9 to 12 month transition for those who are looking for jobs from an advertising campaign like that. It's not an immediate hit, but that is a challenge. We did raise that in our planning to start with, Councillor, and it's the golden egg. If we could get that, that would be really good to understand the correlation.
Yeah, just like I say, I was at the launch of the campaign,
Move.
and it was excellent. So
yeah, thank you.
Well done with the videos and stuff. Yep.
Yeah, no worries. So the workforce development and accommodation strategy continues, and there's a listing there in that slide pack around a variety of activities that are taking place. To give you a sense, obviously the Enhancing Early Childhood Education and Care project is quite a dynamic and complex one. Not many regions have cracked that nut of getting educators and employees to fill those vacancies in the childcare and early education space. We're having a crack at facilitating some work in that area through that funding that we got through Jobs Queensland, which is the Grow Your Own project. So early days, we've had some integration in community about 3 weeks ago, and we're going out with some survey work, preparing it now. So we're hoping to better understand our context across Blackwater and Emerald specifically, and then go from there and define whether there are some solutions ahead of us. The Church Lane Display Home, that's on Kestrel Coal, have been very gracious to give us that land to use that for the display home. There is negotiations that might keep that in region on a permanent basis with one of our agencies in the health space that desperately need accommodation. So we're working through that. The fairer airfares is an ongoing discussion that we've had with Qantas and with our Emerald Airport Advisory Committee yesterday. Just talked about the alignment of timing around council's work in that space on fees and charges, and getting back to Qantas to engage with them on the potential for a residential sort of discount fare. The property review was a really interesting piece of work. We did that across a number of, we identified the key sort of property owners across the region, And then with some in particular, we've been working closely with, say, government employee housing, just working with them to identify their targets and what they plan to do. We've managed to position Blackwater as a priority area, subject to funding. So they weren't top of the tree at the time. There was another part of Queensland, in far north Queensland, that was a priority area, but they, as we understand it, unable to take up that opportunity. So we're hoping that Blackwater will be the priority taken forward, but it's yet to come to pass.
Oh, Councillor Wilkins.
Sorry, just with that, so at this stage, it's just a review. So what sort of accommodation types are you looking? Is it like, you know, duplexes or like multiple sort of?
It's a combination. It's what's going to suit the region and the context of those communities at the time.
Okay.
So if you step down to the council land assessment, which we did through this project, to give council an opportunity to look at their own land holdings and consider the priorities there, council then would be in a position to define, one, whether they want to go ahead with some of those priority options identified, and then two, the type of housing or accommodation that would be required for that context. So it's very open to the need of the context required. So we don't specify it needs to be a duplex or that unnecessarily.
Thank you.
The other ones, so the Build 12 and 12 campaign was there to engender some interest in development in region, and we do have some, and we have facilitated their conversations. With the previous acting CEO, we had the good fortune of being able to bring those participants to the table with the previous acting CEO and the planning department, the manager, and have those direct conversations. So really played a facilitation role of connecting them with council to go through that right process with council and any other supporting information we could offer. So that went well. We've got back to all of those applicants, or those that expressed interest, and all those that wish to go forward have been connected with council to go forward. So there are some potentials in there that may like to build on their own land at this point in time, but that's yet to play out at this point in time. The multi-unit development application was something that didn't come through the 12 and 12 expression of interest, but I believe has gone through council either today or recently for a development application. So we just, again, play that facilitation and connecting role, connecting them to the planners and to other aspects of council, but also other information in region that might help them progress with their application process. So it's nothing new for CHDC. That's sort of what we do when required. So I'll leave that one there. The next project was in the external funding from the Queensland Rural and Industry Development Authority, commonly called QRIDER. It's looking at trying to get a couple of case studies in the agricultural space to look at technology development. So we have, it's called the Smarter, Stronger Ag Through Farm Data project. We did have 3 expressions of interest with farmers that we work with. One of them has not gone ahead, so we did a sort of a technology audit with all of them, and then from there it's determined as to what form of technology is of interest to them to take forward. So the image you can see is from Marathon Wagyu. That family is well known to many, and they have gone forward with a form of technology which is around water monitoring for them and a few other things. So they have completed the process and taken on the technology and now using it. And when we talk technology, sometimes we do get caught up with the Black Shirt Brigade and think it's something whiz-bang. Some of this technology everyone's using. It's quite simple, it's accessible and affordable. So it's not about creating something new for that opportunity unless there's a need for it. The second group is not going ahead after the audit. They prefer not to. They're not really in the mindset of what technology they need to use. They're a hobby farm it's a combination farm on our eastern side of the region. And then our third farmer is near Emerald and a timing issue. So we're just waiting on, it's a water technology again, and it's mainly waiting on Ergon Energy to get the right timing to do the work on site. and so we've got to wait for the farmer to determine that right time. So just that window of opportunity for that particular project. We also gave these case studies an opportunity at AgTech 24 to be part of a panel and explain how they're using their technologies to advantage their production. The next project is the Gemfields GeoTrail Interpretive Signage Project. It's meeting its milestones, but we have had a change in contractor only in the last 2 weeks. So we are looking at what that means for us in taking the project forward, but to date it's on track. The other projects there are relative to some work that we're doing with two agencies. One's with the Department of Primary Industries, so the Ag Future Statement, the Ag Capability Statement and the Ag Video are all pieces of work that we define with Department of Primary Industries in a collaborative agreement. So we define that well in advance and then we go and chase it. So the Ag Capability Statement hasn't been done since 2017, the video about the same time, and the Future Statement is something new that we're looking at. It's not an in-depth piece of research, it's really just defining some clear opportunities to go forward with in that ag space. We would know most of those around the table. It's that reinforcement that sometimes is required. So that's really a lot of work that's coming to fruition in March, April this year, which is really good. We've got the ag video taking place, the shooting of it, next week. So looking forward to getting out and about with that one. I think the next one is the video for the AgTech 24, which is the wrap-up video. There we go.
Well, here we are at AgTech 24, where innovation takes centre stage. And whether you're here as a producer, an innovator, a student, or an industry leader, we're all looking at ways that we can harness technology for a more sustainable and efficient future.
AgTech is pivotal in terms of tackling those wicked challenges and opportunities that we have that come from climate and the environment. And that's why innovation and technology is leading the way in making a difference.
CHDC is putting on AgTech 24 in our region because this is where we need it. Technology isn't just the future, it is our very present.
Australia is leading in AgTech, I believe, because we have some of the most progressive farmers on the planet.
We are using tech on farm every day, incorporating it into our business and our systems, and just understanding what new technologies are out there for us is quite important.
So AgTech 24 gives us the opportunity to showcase the technology to growers and they can see it hands-on.
When you think about driving change, the change that we need across agriculture, we need to have regional momentum. And this is why events like this are fantastic, bringing the whole ecosystem together.
There we go. I hope that gives you a
Awesome,
sense of
thank you.
what the event was about.
Thank you.
And importantly, we do that event every second year. So we have a signature event every year. And this year's signature event is our Business Excellence Awards, with AgTech being the alternate year. So you would have seen in the CEO report quite a detailed analysis of the event. We've tried to sort of continually update and improve that analysis so that it helps us as the planners, but also our partners and those that are investing in the event understand the value that it's offering. So we will go forward and look at what tweaks we need to make for AgTech 26. So that's a way ahead of us. The next slide around events captures Tourism 24, which was a really good localised event late last year, focused on tourism, obviously. So we had Tourism and Events Queensland there. We had the Queensland Caravan Parks Association, and it was really interesting. We also had my good friend here, the GM for Communities, for Council, as our key panel speakers. And what they did was give some perspective of what's ahead, but also we did get into the nitty-gritty of things that we'd like to do within region as well. So everything came out from that. The drive tourism market is still the critical one for us and for Queensland. And it also stemmed from the caravanning increase in purchases. They're up 14%. So that indicates that there's still that growth in that market space. And then there was discussion, obviously, around overflow of usage of, facilities like showgrounds. So it sort of went from that visionary information and data through to that localised interest areas that are quite common to a lot of us. So that was a really good forum to get that out, and we look forward to doing that again next December, or we do it 3rd of December is the date we've put forward because that's the time that suits most of the stakeholders, the operators in the tourism sector in our region. So we look forward to that. I think the upcoming events, just to give you a sense of what's coming forward, we do our external event in Brisbane, Farm to Fine Dining. It's now its 10th anniversary this year. And with really good work with the board, we've refined the focus this year to look at agriculture. So typically that event captures all. It uses that agricultural base, showcasing our produce as its base, but then we have invitations to a variety of people across government, industry and business that are relevant to us. This time we are still doing that, but we're going to try and refine it to agriculture in particular, being the 10th anniversary. So that's a good thing. We're really pleased that Minister Perrott has already accepted, as has Assistant Minister Sean Dillon, our local member. So that's a great step forward for us. The Business Excellence Awards program and gala. So the gala dinner's at the end in September 6th, but the program's underway. We do capacity building workshops along the way to assist those businesses, one, just generally, but also in the process of nominating or being nominated for an award later down the track. So we had really good take-up. We did business planning probably, I'm going to say 2 weeks ago, and we had 10 businesses in the room. It's a 2-day program, so that was day 1. So really pleased with that, and we hope that all 10 come back for day 2 and they get benefit out of that. The business working lunch, we've pruned our program back to do 1 of those this year, and that's just due to capacity, to be fair, and also being mindful of our partners. So we know it's a pretty challenging time for some out in our region in the business capacity, so not everyone can support events financially. So what we do have on the advice of our board and others is we've confirmed that we've got Bernard Salt coming into region. It'll be May the 9th, and it'll be a luncheon. So we'll get that out. We normally promote most of our events 6 weeks in advance, but there was a good learning from our board members who saw him in Brisbane at a Queensland Farmers Federation event and came back quite impressed. So we've had a conversation with Bernard already and trying to give him some pointers as to the context of our region and what would be important for us. So that's a good thing going forward as well. And then we'll have our Tourism 25 at the end of the year. I think the engagements there sort of can speak for themselves, but it's everything from, Sean Dillon being the new member. I think we were his first engagement post-election, like it was the Saturday and he was the next week on the Monday, I think, from memory.
Monday.
So it's very quick, but we had that lined up ready to go. And the release of Queensland Country's brand through to Queensland Information Centres Association, so visitor information centres, having a good opportunity there. Networking with business, Minister Perrott, the Queensland Resources Council, so it's a bit that happened in that quarter. And then when we go to governance, really important, this slide to be fair, our independent directors add a lot of value to our board, and we're able to say farewell to Bronwyn Roberts, but also welcome Laura Letts. And Laura's a lawyer by profession and lives in southeast Queensland and works for AGL. So she has lived up this part of the world some time ago in her youth and knows this country, but she brings a lot of strength and a lot of diversity of thought to our board, which is great. So we welcomed Laura in the last quarter, but we also pleasingly went through the Queensland Audit Office process as we are a controlled entity. And that was pleasing as well in terms of an unmodified audit opinion and no significant issues raised. So we obviously send that through to council straight away once we receive that, so that council can present those findings to the public as well. The recognition and achievements area is really pleasing. When you get volunteers that have been with you for 35 years, that is phenomenal. And so really pleased to celebrate that with Carol Ferguson, one of our stalwarts of region, and then Glenn Wass in the other photo with his lovely wife Jeanette. They went down to the Queensland Information Centre Association conference in Kingaroy, and he was given the honour of Volunteer of the Year. So, and then the Visitor Information Centre won a WOW award for its service as well. So some really good recognition there. I think the other piece of recognition was the commendation through the Queensland Planning Awards, which was in November last year. This is for our workforce development and accommodation strategy, and it's a commendation around improving planning process. So we were pleased to see that on a state scale, because we're up against all those large councils, you know, Brisbane City Council and others. So it was great to get some recognition there for our work. If I step into the scorecard, councillors and officers, I've got that now just for that quarter, by exception of what's been delivered and what's being monitored. What I can say with pretty much all of those areas that are being monitored is it's just a date move. So some of those projects, for instance, the Smarter Stronger Ag through farm data, we've asked for an extension to June this year. That refers back to that conversation I had about getting Ergon Energy to time up with that farmer to make sure they implement that piece of technology. So it's just the timing of projects. The economic profile we've done for many years. The last one we did was 2023. We're actually looking at a format change there. A lot of that data is actually online. So we're looking at whether we put out a sort of a single page reference sort of document, piece of collateral, versus it's a 6-pager when it folds out in its current form. So that's a timing matter. And so are some of those other projects, the Ag Capability Statement. Pleasing to say that although we missed the mark in the December delivery of the Central Highlands Visitor Economy Strategy, we did have that endorsed by our board in the first meeting in February this year. So it's going to be called an action plan as opposed to a strategy. We feel the review identified that a lot that was in the strategy carries through. There's not a lot new, and so it's more about actioning what was in that previous strategy. So we will put the collateral design spin on it and get that out in due course, but pleasing to see our board endorse that one in February. I think other ones for extension are those collaboration agreement pieces of work. Again, that's the timing. Instead of December, we're looking at a March-April timing of the future statement, the video and the capability statement, just through access to data. So the capability statement in particular is a real challenge. Data sources are a real challenge generally for a lot of things, but in the ag space, they've dropped things like the ATO or the the ABS have done an ag survey every period of time, and they've dropped that. So that used to be a benchmark for a lot of ag data, the ag survey. So that's been taken out of our reach now. So what we do is we use all the data that we can find, but we also do a lot of ground truthing, which we had to do in the previous one too. So it's even though when you've got the data, some of it's done by assumption and modelling. It's not actual original source data. And so we've had to try and cleanse that and define what is relevant for our region. It takes time, unfortunately. I think that's probably it, councillors, until we step into the financials. So this is the expenditure of funds to date, council's contribution, as well as you'll see on the right-hand side, other operating costs. That's typically all those external projects I just talked about through other funding sources. So if I can sum that up, the CHRC funding is underspent by about 6%, or $63,929 at present. The other operating costs are up 273%. But take that in context, that's money coming into the organisation from external sources to do valuable work for the region, and we're in the midst of doing that now. So a lot of expenses there are, Neon Logic was the media campaign for the Smart Move. So, there was like 107,000 there straight away. If I look at some other numbers there, the Frontier CQ Innovation Roadmap is 145,000 odd dollars there. So that overall, that expenditure of 445,604 is, or the variance is what that's attributed to. It's all that external funding coming in and the timing of making payments to consultants along the way. I think the challenge we face, as council would too, is that when you get that external funding in, it comes in milestone payments that can be, 2 milestones across a project or 5, but your consultant or whoever you're using as a contractor could be on a monthly basis, and so your cash flow needs to be available to pay that out until you get your milestones achieved and your final dollars in the bank. So I hope that's given council and officers a good understanding of what we've delivered in the last quarter, and more than happy as usual to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Peter. That's very, very comprehensive. Well done. Thank you. I guess I'll open it to CHDC board members if they've got any comments to make. Deputy Mayor, have you got anything you'd like to add or?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably a couple of things, sorry, through the chair. When you mentioned, I guess there is that little piece, and I took particular note of when council had been doing advertising for employees, and you put your comment in underneath. So I guess there's probably a little bit of work in that space to ensure that you don't have to put your comment underneath, that the work that CHDC is doing on behalf of council and benefiting council is included. Because I guess that would maximise the possibilities to achieve the tangibles that everyone's looking for. So I guess that's something that we can work on together.
Absolutely, and I think in liaison with a number of the businesses, council included, as they're a co-contributor to this project, is exactly that. It's really up to our partners to take on that opportunity. Mm-hmm. We certainly have been promoting it internally and externally, but you're right, there are great opportunities to integrate that information into existing campaigns. Yep.
Absolutely, and probably I guess we had a delegation, council had a delegation down to Canberra, and I just wanted to take particular note when we were talking to the Shadow Minister of Regional Education, Regional Development, Local Government and Territories, Darren Chester MP. We had the collateral for the workforce and accommodation strategy, mm-hmm. And straight away with the modular building on the front, drew his attention to that straight away. And of course, we sort of spoke about the childcare constraints, and having that background information from that strategy, we were able to give specifics on that. So he was quite interested in the possibilities of modular and childcare facilities and marrying the two together. So yeah, there was quite an extensive conversation about that. So that collateral and that body of work did provide that opportunity, and then obviously an opportunity to engage with him further, as we offered the invitation to come into region and have a look. So really appreciate that.
Yeah, and really pleased that could be part of that advocacy work. I mean, that's what we're here to do. So.
And then probably just further to that, I think it's probably worth noting that the Business Excellence Awards program, it's not the gala at the end. That's the important bit. The important bit is the work that is going into business, building business capability along the way. Yep. So in order to be able to get in the running for it, you've got to have these milestones that see you progress as businesses
Yeah.
within the region. So that's the important part of that.
It is.
Yep.
Thanks, councillor. And to say, we also always have this tension with the Business Excellence Awards because it is a lot of work, but it's deliberately so, not deliberately to give people a lot of work, but we want to ensure that the quality, of application is there, and that when you end up having a recipient of an award, you can say hand on heart, they've met all the criteria, they've delivered a really good story to the judges, the narrative's strong, the background and the depth of their work is strong, they're a worthy recipient, and you can hold them up in high regard. So we do every year that, in preparation for that, the criteria, we look at the criteria every year. We don't just set and forget, and define, are there ways that we can give value to those that are nominating and get the right outcomes in the same time. So bit of tension getting that right level at times, because we do know it's a lot of work, but we do facilitate that process and that program of works leading into the nomination process. And our work in the previous year too, with a whole host of one-on-ones and the workshop program we do with business carries through as well. It's not just the program in the year of the event as well.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Peter. And I know over probably 20 years, it's evolving, isn't it, that process?
Yep.
So, Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question. I noticed a variation in the building expenses in the budget. Is that increase in rent or something? I don't.
The building, the variation, yes. Yeah. It's often a timing issue too. So we may have paid, we sort of pay those, I'm trying to think, it's quarterly. And so it may have been, the payment might have been 2 in that quarter, just because of the timing of receipt of invoice and payment. So we are, when we come back to council in due course, we do have a new 5-year agreement for the facility we're in, but it is an increase in cost. And as I shared with our board, we've managed to get it from about I think it was an 8.9% increase that they were wanting, down to about a 3.6% increase for that annual fee. So that will play into it going forward as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, the new format looks good.
Oh, great.
The report.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just aware that we're reaching our time limit for this session, but Councillor Newman.
Just a quick congratulations on some of the projects. The Frontier CQ Innovation Roadmap and the workshop that was done with Council, that was very well received. And I'm looking forward to seeing the Agriculture Futures Statement and Capability Statement. So I think as our second biggest economic industry, we've seen how we're shining through recent AgTech and Evoke platforms as well.
Yeah, and I think if I looked at our economic data, the output for ag, I'm going to throw a number out there, but it's over $900 million. It's about $945 million, and of that, a high proportion, is the beef, the cattle industry sector within ag. So it is a very strong sector for us, always has been. We've gone down as low as in the $700 million, and we've gone as high as 2019, just over $1 billion in output. So that's just that general output of the industry sector. So very crucial to our future prospects.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor Whiteman.
Through the chair, I just wanted to say thank you for including that information about the campaign. The details about the effectiveness of the different platforms was something that we don't generally get to see, and so it was very interesting for me. Speaks volumes to the demographics of those different programs and what people are interested in, and yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with that information, but it was absolutely fascinating to read. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it's being nimble. So in that 8-week time frame, we had weekly meetings with our contractor and defined where our spend would go. So we were able to redirect it sometimes when we're going, it's not quite hitting a mark there. So, yep.
Good. Thank you very much. Councillor Wilkins.
Sorry, I know that I read somewhere that you'll be coming in shortly as part of the budget thingy sort of
Yes,
thing.
10th of April.
Yeah, so is it possible to have like a little bit more of a breakdown? I don't mean the remuneration so much, but the overheads and the projects and stuff like that. A little bit more exactly where they are. Is that possible to have that as a report for when you come in for the budget?
Oh, definitely. When we come to budget time, you'll get more detail than what we produce here. This is to give you a good sense of the funds that we get in from council and other entities and how they're tracking. But yes, we can certainly go into more detail.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and thanks for the report. It's great.
Yeah, no worries.
Yep, great. Thank you very much. New format looks great as well. Easy to read, so wonderful. I'll put the recommendation that Central Highlands Regional Council receives the Central Highlands Development Corporation's quarterly update for the period of October to December 2024 in accordance with the service level agreement between both organisations. Can I have a mover, please? Mover, Councillor Cruz, seconder, Councillor Burns. All in favour? Thank you. Motion carried.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Excellent.
Thank you,
Marnie, for the presentation work.
Thank you. Right. Moving on now. I think that's about the last report that we're receiving today. So moving down, we have nil decision action reports for closed session, nil information reports, and information report for closed session, no late agenda items, no notice of motion, and open the floor to general business. No general business. Thank you very much. Community acknowledgements. Councillor Newman.
I would just like to acknowledge that Liz Alexander was recognised at the Avocad, and it was very pleasing to see that and being recognised for the strength that she's given to the region.
Yep. Absolutely. That was very pleasing to see that recognition for Liz. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Councillor Newman. I have a couple, if that's all right. I just wanted to say a big thank you, really, to all the schools that have invited us along to be part of their student leader inductions over the last couple of weeks or so. So it's always very pleasing to get along to meet and congratulate all our school leaders. But not only that, it's also beautiful to get along to see all of our new little starters, especially our kindy and prep and grade 1 students right through to our grade 12. So just a huge shout out to all of our school student leaders from across the region. And secondly, I just want to say that we had our council meeting just before Australia Day, and I just wanted to say congratulations to all the 2025 Australia Day Awards winners as well as nominees. We had a strong field of applications or nominations from right across the region. So I just wanted to say congratulations, but specifically, I would like to say congratulations to our Citizen of the Years, which was Andrew Bergman in the north, around the Capella Thierry area, and as well we had 2 Citizens of the Year in the east, or the Blackwater Bluff Dingo area. So William Craig, I think everyone knows him as Bill. So Bill Craig and Ashlyn Hoare, so congratulations. And also in the South Rolleston Springshaw was Nicole Upton. I'm used to saying Nikki, so congratulations to Nikki. And then in Central area for Emerald and Gemfields and Comet was Lynette Brown, so or Lynn Brown as we know her. So a huge congratulations to all of those winners. So just wanted to acknowledge them. So thank you. And that, I think, brings us to the close of our meeting for today. So declare our meeting closed at 2 minutes to 11, 10:58 a.m. So thank you very much, everyone. And if there's anybody in Capella or Terry or anyone around the community here today or right across the region, really, you're very welcome to come along to our community consultation meeting at the Capella Town Hall, Capella Cultural Centre, I should be saying, this afternoon at 5 p.m. So please come along. We'd love you to pop by, say hello, and chat with